Shall we start? I think to keep up with the time. So, welcome to the second session. My name is Anne Ashton from Bangkok. I will be the next moderator. So, next session we have three presenters. So, the first one, I would like to invite Faye Taylor, our long-time friend, 6 years. Since we see each other in Vietnam, nice to see you back. Yes. The first paper that will to present that the Brave stays ethical holidays homes as an authentic and immersive hospitality experience. So may I invite you to the stage, please? Thank you.
Thank you, namaste to everybody in the room and everyone joining us online. It's great to be here again in this amazing community of sustainable tourism academics and practitioners. The last time I was with you was in Da Nang back in 2019. So I just want to say a huge thank you to the organising committee. Thank you to AITM for your wonderful hospitality and superb organisation. So great to be here. Thank you. I'm sort of joining the community in a slightly different sense, not sort of hardcore academic. I'm starting to migrate back into the tourism industry. So today I'm going to be talking to you about a small tourism business, a small sustainable tourism business that I have just established and I'm trying to grow, and it's called The Brave. In fact, The Brave encapsulates a portfolio of activities that I'm currently doing, looking at academic consultancy, but then my focus area at the moment and of this presentation is The Brave Stays. Why The Brave? I'm not always brave, I'm very nervous right now, my belly's doing flips and somersaults, but it's to remind me, I think really, it's to focus the mind that in order to affect positive change, we often need to be brave, we often need to take risks, we need to step outside the comfort zone and do things differently. So The Brave is really designed to, remind us of that and to give us that little bit of a push sometimes to do things differently and to challenge the status quo and to celebrate those that do so. So that's why I'm here today, but I'm here to talk specifically about the concept of the Brave Stays, which is ethical overseas holiday home ownership, starting with some of my own property. So this isn't a research-orientated presentation. There is, I suppose, a little bit of promotion here, but it's designed to, justify the concept, root it into the academic discourse on sustainability and ethical tourism, but also it has various interconnected elements of wellness, well-being, nature-based appreciation, cultural immersion, and there's also a real sort of thread of family tourism and the barriers that exist to engaging in ethical and sustainable alternative family tourisms, because there's a lot of barriers that exist to people being able to actually engage in the form of tourism that they want to, so they default to the tried and tested model of family and habitual patterns. So the decision of a person to buy a property overseas, to invest in overseas property for the purpose of a holiday home for themselves initially, it indicates that they have an interest in that destination, perhaps a deeper, more intimate interest, to be immersed in its culture and its environment. And then the decision of that host to open the doors of that property, rent it out to visitors, is arguably, well, I'm making the argument, others sort of support that as well, that it is an opportunity for the guests to really integrate into the community, to really embrace the cultural and the natural attributes of that destination to a more deeper level. I guess that also depends though on what the host has done, the mindset, the perspective of that host, because We also need to accept that there are a lot of holiday home owners overseas that might purchase properties and live in their own cultural bubble. I'm not talking about that form of overseas holiday ownership. So there is, however, within this context, if we think of Booking.com, Airbnb, quite a myriad of controversies and challenges associated with the ethical or maybe unethical operation. You know, the mere platform that connects hosts to guests attracts a lot of controversy surrounding, you know, the nature of the supply chain, the pricing structure, the fees and charges that are leveraged on hosts, meaning that they have to hike their prices up to something quite unnatural, and it makes it one of the barriers to being able to engage in this sort of rich, immersive, meaningful form of ethical tourism. So there's a whole sort of range of different issues at play here. You know, this idea to buy a holiday home, the decision to engage, immerse deeper into the community, the offer to the guest, but then structurally there are some challenges that may, you know, create barriers to engagement and also diminish the impact from a sustainable tourism perspective. I'm not going to labour this too much because I think we can all appreciate and we'll probably hear this as a recurring theme throughout the next 2 days, but certainly the appetite is there for people to engage on an increasing basis in alternative tourisms that have a nature-related interest, a wellness-related interest, cultural-related interest, and ethical-related interest. So that market is growing. But barriers exist, and again, as I said, this isn't a research-orientated presentation too much, but to provide the background, you know, there's that attitude-behaviour gap, as it's known within the marketing literature. You know, the desire to make ethical and responsible choices exists, but converting that into action may be restricted by a range of barriers. Within the tourism context, within the ethical tourism context, it's things like, you know, there aren't enough options available, or, you know, we want an incentive to engage in that sort of activity, that practice. Don't know where to find those options. Are they labelled? Is it clear, you know, that they are ethical choices? And can I trust that they are as well? So trust being a huge element in, you know, sustainability claims that are made by tourism organisations. So you've got this demand, growing demand on one side, you've got barriers working against that, which represents a challenge. If we think about this in a family holiday context as well, because, you know, having become a mom myself, you refocus your mind on what your traditional holiday patterns and habits were, into how does that play out in a family setting? Can I continue to replicate those patterns? What are the barriers to being able to do so? And again, the research that has been done indicates that people appreciate and they recognise the educational benefits that come from travelling with your young ones, with your family members. But again, that sometimes hits a barrier because of the challenges that they face. And they're often financially driven, and especially there's this perception of to engage in ethical choices, responsible options will be the more expensive option, so that acts as a deterrent. People then default to their traditional habits and habitual behaviours. Things that are seen as helping to overcome these barriers are things like help and subsidies towards travel costs, support and practical advice, having a trusted advisor, an advocate of tourism experiences, ethical tourism experiences and opportunities that, you know, are tried and tested, perhaps, could be one of those things to overcome barriers. And we do have to, again, acknowledge this issue of, you know, the habits, the holiday behaviours that we might be sensitised into. You know, those habitual patterns that, in the UK context particularly, will cause people to default to a package holiday that might be taking one to an established resort, an enclave resort, an all-inclusive resort, and we know the sustainability concerns and the challenges associated with that sort of tourism. So lots and lots of problems, lots of barriers to be able to have to overcome in terms of trying to incentivize ethical and sustainable travel choices, particularly for the family. So cognitive, financial barriers. We also see a bit of a loss in confidence and a greater need for security when there's a family unit travelling as well. This also is something that has been observed to play out within the ageing process as well. So the older travellers, even though there's the appetite to engage in more adventurous forms of tourism, want that support of the advocate, the travel advice that they can trust in order to make those choices. So trust comes through as a really important element here. We've also got this overarching seasonality challenge. Again, I can't necessarily speak for the rest of the world, but I can in the UK and Europe, that what the industry seems to do is hike the prices of travel experiences exponentially when it comes to Easter, Christmas, the summer holidays, to the extent that people, they can't afford to travel and then they miss out on those enriching educational experiences. Or they might take their children out of school and then they face financial sanctions and it has an impact upon the children's schooling. So again, problems exist. So I had all of this in my mind going into the development of the Brave and the Brave Stays, and some of the solutions that I thought could be offered in order to try and tackle some of those barriers that exist, using a creative pricing structure that is simple, modest, cost-based and highly competitive, with only a £10 English difference between the price bands. So that's starting at a modest base level, and then in the peak summer season only increasing by £20 per property per night. Incentivising repeat guests, repeat stays, longer stays, so that there is that deeper level of immersion in the destination. Incentivising and celebrating doing good at home and in the destination by giving additional discounts for people who could evidence efforts that contribute towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, 5% if it's at home, 10% if you do that when you're in the destination. And then there's a philanthropic thrust to the business as well, in that £2, I know it's only a small amount, but it's something, because the modest nightly fees that are £25 per night for some of the properties don't really permit much greater than that, got costs to cover, but donating £2 per night revenue of the guest's choice to a charity, could be an environmental charity, it could be a social charity, and I'm building the database of these in the destination and also at home, so the guest chooses where their money goes as well. Lots of other things, I'm obviously not going to have time to talk about all of them today, but hopefully we can continue this conversation. So I've started the ball rolling with 4 properties, one in Spain, one in Greece, one in Hungary, and one in Italy. So Casa della Nonna, Juicy Olive, La Cueva Preciosa, and Tizzy Firs. So these are all unique, quirky properties that offer these opportunities. They've been specifically and bespokely chosen by me with all of these elements in mind. So proximity to airports that you can fly to all year round that aren't seriously affected by seasonality. Located near wellness attractions such as thermal spas. So Casa Nonna, 2 kilometres from a thermal spa. They're in striking and unique natural environments. So can be enjoyed by walkers, hikers, cyclists, etc., etc. So got very much acknowledging these themes. And so the vision of the business is that we aim to do things differently, breaking down the barriers to ethical and alternative travel for budget conscious. So these are these are not high end, these are not luxury, they're for budget conscious travellers by offering unique, authentic and ethically managed holiday homes away from home. They promote disconnection, no Wi-Fi, well-being, rehabilitation, rejuvenation and quality time with the travel party, the family, cultural immersion and appreciation of natural surroundings. And some of the really important elements of what we're striving to achieve, they're homes and they're places of personality for people to enjoy enriching touristic experiences and authentic narratives. There are lots of other arms of work to this, so I see this hopefully becoming a bigger thing than just what I'm doing. I want to build a community of practice, a platform, if you like, of alternative overseas property home owners. And of course, the governance of what they do is important. We've established that governance is a really important element of the development and the progress of sustainable tourism. So loads of ethical codes of conduct exist for tourism, but there's very few that are bespoke and appropriate, arguably, for the offering of the overseas holiday home experience. And so one of the things I'm working on is fusing existing codes and developing my own, the Brave Stays ethical code of overseas holiday ownership practice. And it's comprised of not only principles but practices and indicators as well. And it recognises that this is often a development journey from the promisingly principled to the consciously compliant through to the engagingly ethical. So again, recognising that perfection doesn't exist. I don't think it does. You can answer that one. But what we want to do is encourage people to gradually improve, a journey of continual improvement and development. I will wrap it up very, very shortly. Partnerships and collaboration are key to what we do. As I said, part of the nightly revenue fee goes to local charitable causes. But further than that, I've started to partner with some charities in the UK to offer rejuvenation breaks, essentially, to families that might have illness within them and the people that care for them as well. So there's sort of a dual purpose, and there's some of the partners that we've already set up for the project. And so, what I'm seeking from you, esteemed academics, practitioners, is things that I might not have thought about. Obviously, there's going to be a million things I've not thought about, but anything glaringly obvious that you think could be an opportunity, a target market, challenges, opportunities, potential collaborators as well. I want to advocate ethical and sustainable tourism operations globally. It's not just Nottingham, England. And so if there's any charitable recipients you could suggest that really do have that values alignment, I'd be keen to hear about that. And I would really love any advocacy that you can give to the project if you think it's a decent idea. And so we'd love to hear from you, and there's some of the ways that we can connect. I apologise for going over. I thank you for your attention. Thanks.